Welcome to another episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast. I'm Stephanie Ricca with CoStar News. As always, here with STR's Isaac Collazo and CoStar's Jan Freitag. Hi, guys.
Happy New
Hello,
Year.
Steph.
Happy New Year indeed. It's January, a new year full of new hopes and dreams and optimism. Have you made your vision boards yet?
We made a forecast board. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's what a vision board should be, right? And then we manifest it into being, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, but hope is not a strategy. I keep telling you guys, hoping and writing things down doesn't mean it happens. You got to do things to get there.
You know what? That is a lesson for all of us as we build our vision boards for 2026. No matter what our goals are, hope is not a strategy. Now, guys, this is episode 37 of the podcast. We will hit our 3-year anniversary later this year. For those of you doing the math, which I know is all of you, we've done a handful of bonus episodes in addition to our monthly episodes, which gets us to 37. But 2023 feels like a long time ago, wouldn't you say?
Very long time
Yes.
ago.
2023 feels like a lifetime ago. But you know what? To kick
Hey.
off this episode, I am going to take us in a time machine even farther back. You walked right into that one. So tell me, are you both familiar with the 2016 trend on social media right now?
Not really.
And I wasn't until our mayor posted pictures
Wow.
from him when he was very, very young 10 years ago. So I was like, oh, if a mayor posted in Nashville, Tennessee, then clearly there must be something to it. So that is the first person where I found this out. And then my wife's company did it at her work. So apparently it's a thing, Steph. So we are right on trend.
Well,
And unfortunately, I still look exactly the same. What's that say
see,
about
that's a
me?
good thing. That is a
That's a good
very good thing. And I'll tell it to you in a nutshell in case any of our listeners perhaps have not followed the trend, but mostly millennials and older Gen Z, which could be why you guys hadn't heard of it. No offense. Are in this major nostalgia wave for 2016, right? You know, I think maybe it might be because it's the first time people in that age group can experience nostalgia. Maybe that's a dig. Anyway, it's turned into a trend where people are recalling and posting about what made 2016 special for them, you know, whether it was longing for simpler times or for different fashion, like, you know, pink hair, which I did have in 2016. And you know what the number one song was in 2016?
I should know
Isaac?
that. I should know that.
Well, maybe you can guess the artist. And maybe a listener will prove us wrong, but I do believe it was Mr. Justin Bieber.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
See, 2016, does it talk about feeling like a long time ago? But what I'm going to put you guys on the spot to do, to kick off our episode for a little fun, is we're going to do a little 2016 throwback from a hotel data perspective. Okay? You with me?
Let's go.
All right. So, in the spirit of the trend, I want you to think about what you look back on fondly about 2016 when it comes to hotel performance or data. Okay. Think fondly, think the good thoughts. Jan, what's your hashtag 2016 social media post going to be
So
about?
my excuse for not remembering anything is that our now oldest was born in 2016. And I totally plead the fifth on anything and everything that happened because I was just in the dad fog, first time father, not knowing which way is up, and late nights and early mornings and all those things. I did look up, though, of course, Donald Trump ran for president and won the presidency in 2016.
Yep.
That sort of sticks out. Son being born, that sticks out. And I looked up RevPAR performance in 2016.
Should we make
3.2%.
Wait, say that again?
3.2% RevPAR growth in 2016. Those were the days.
Well, those were the days. And again, that 3.2% was made up by what we don't have today. ADR growth, which was up 3% that year. So that was the key driver versus where we are today. which is ADR well below the rate of inflation.
Oh,
Those
what
are the
a
days.
what a time. Hashtag those were the days. What else sticks out to you from 2016 from a hotel data perspective?
For me, it was the occupancy side, right? So we were getting near record occupancy. So we were at 65.2% for a year end. So that was another thing. So you had rate growth, you had very strong occupancy. The pipeline was almost at a record level at that point. Actually, it was at that point in time, it was a record level for that point in time. But times have changed,
Right.
as we know. So we were seeing just a totally different industry. But I think, and I can't believe Jan didn't mention this, my friend who is so engaged with with the investment community, in 2016, the biggest thing happened.
Yep.
That was the Marriott Starwood merger.
Oh,
I mean,
Sure
that was
wow.
big.
was.
Yes. Geez, wow. Is that? Yeah. Wow.
Can you
10
believe
years.
that?
Yes.
2016.
Well,
It's
and it was late 2016 that the deal closed.
September.
They started talking in late
Uh,
2015. And then, of course, there were all of the bidding wars between the Chinese pension company,
Oh,
Anbang, the
right.
Chinese insurance company. And then there were rumors about other US based companies throwing their hats in the ring. But that was, and at the time, if you'll remember, that was when the big hotel companies were all in their race to 1 million open rooms. And then this deal, of course, pushed Marriott over the edge.
Yeah, it was a big deal. So, it's just,
2016.
and then for
Yeah.
me
Oh,
personally,
that,
because you
that's
you
right.
know,
I remember, I think I mentioned this on a prior podcast, but I was at the last Starwood GM conference in Denver, Colorado. Yeah, that was a party, if I may say so.
Oh boy.
And now Starwood is back.
yep,
Raul
it
Real,
is.
shout out, friend of the
10
pod.
years later. Well, they will
We're back.
say they never went away in
Yeah.
some form, but the naming is back. So let's make a deal. 10 years from now, we meet, same time, same place, and we talk about it. What do you say?
I don't think we're gonna be nostalgic about 2025 anytime soon, so we can meet, but I don't think we're gonna be talking the happy times of 2025.
2026, we will talk about how Germany made it to the Final Four of the World Cup, and it was
Okay.
amazing. And how all these people came to the United States and paid a lot of money for rooms, and the World Cup was a thing. So
All
that's what
right,
we'll talk
Jan,
about
did
2
you
years
see
from
our forecast? Just FYI. So so I'm
Hey,
just
I
saying.
like that optimism. I like that optimism, Jan. I'm going to side with you, and we're going to think good thoughts, not hope, but real manifestation for 2026. But before we do that, we have to look back one
Right.
more time into 2025. And this is why Isaac is shedding tears and bowing his head right now. But he is going to start us off by taking us on a quick tour through the December year end
And
numbers
we're gonna
from 2025.
and we're, memories of a really weak year, right? That's what we should call this one. So let's start off with US RevPAR dropped 0.3%. So that was actually better than what we thought. So again, yay that it was only 0.3%. But one of the funny things, Jan and I were talking earlier this week, when you really look at the absolute RevPAR, that was only a 28-cent difference in absolute RevPAR 25 versus 2024. Now, a couple of things happened that, especially for those of you that have been listening to this podcast, December was a surprise on the upside, as RevPAR was flat after 6 months of decline. So it was minus 0.03. I think I remember the exact percentage point, and that's because Christmas, the week before Christmas, and the week after Christmas were much stronger than any of us expected. Right, so that really helped us out. Unfortunately, even though occupancy was up for the month of December, ADR was still that lagging self that it's been all year. So that didn't really help much. In terms of chain scales, RevPAR was up 5.7% in luxury, followed by upper upscale at 0.7%, with all others down. Now, that is for the full year, I should say that.
Wait, can
But
you repeat that again, Isaac? It was luxury that was up 5.5,
5.7
5.7, and the next
was upper upscale at
highest.
0.7%.
Wow.
Yeah, and then without luxury, this is even more interesting, US RevPAR would have decreased 0.9% versus a 0.3%. So luxury was a big driver in that, and a lot of that, again, came on the demand side. Um, even though December was better, the quarter four decline in demand was the largest of the year at down minus 1.3%. Demand has fallen for 3 consecutive quarters, and of course, Q4 was impacted by our friends, the hurricane markets, where demand dropped 14.7%. So again, if you didn't believe that could happen, it did, and it will have an impact again in Q1, and then it will minimize, and then we won't be talking about hurricane markets after Q1. Las Vegas was also a big drag on demand. It was down 7.6% for the full year. And if we exclude hurricane markets and Vegas, US demand was flat, basically like 0.1% in the quarter. And for year to date, it was minus 0.02%. So flat, both the
Really
quarter and
reaching for
year to
those
date.
decimal points.
I know, we've been working on it a lot, looking at all this stuff. Um, in terms of the other thing that was interesting about demand, just giving you some more insights, is group demand was down 1.8% in Q4 and 1.6% full year. So what basically group demand in 25 was similar to 23 and is still well below 2019. So even though we thought this was going to be a great group year at the beginning of the year, it didn't materialize. There were some highlights here and there in some of the quarters and some of the months, but again, for the full year, it was down. And I thought another big uh, factor within our decline in the demand for the U.S. was what we're seeing in short-term rentals. And I'm going to have to do a shout out to Jamie Lane at AirDNA for giving me this data. But
Friend of
essentially,
the
just
pod.
yeah, yeah. So giving just the day. So overall, hotel demand for the full year was down 6.2 million room nights. Okay. Short-term rentals were up 10.6 million room nights. So total accommodations was up, but again, all through short-term rentals. And to give you some share numbers, back in 2019, 9.9% of total accommodations were short-term rentals. In 2025, it's 15.4%. So again, you not only had changes in international travelers, which we've talked about all year long, but then you also had an increase in the use of short-term rentals, which I think is also economically related.
And that doesn't include the increase in cruise passengers that
No,
we've
that
talked
does not.
about on the margins, that probably has an impact as well.
Right. And then few more things before we wrap this up. Supply inched up 0.7%. Growth rate was slightly higher in top 25 markets. And the number one market in terms of new openings was Atlanta. It had 23 hotels that opened this year,
Oh,
and then
wow.
followed by Dallas, which saw 17 hotels.
Didn't
And
know
most
that.
of those openings are still in the upscale to upper mid-scale. So you're seeing just, again, lots of the middle tier, if you want to call it that, openings. So that hasn't changed. That's been the what we've seen year over year. Occupancy was down 0.8%, with only the Midwest seeing a gain. The South and West, the South was hurricane markets, and Houston, West, obviously Las Vegas saw the biggest occupancy declines. But again, we don't want to all be depressing, right? We don't want to all just be like, oh my God, it's all bad news. There were winners, right? St. Louis, San Francisco, Minneapolis, and Chicago saw growth among the top 25 markets. And so again, there was some bright spots out there, but again, you had to go market by market. In terms of ADR, we alluded to that earlier as we were talking about 2016 and how different it is from 2025. ADR for the full year only increased 0.9%. And remember, the rate of inflation is 2.9%, so well below that rate of
How could
inflation.
we forget?
Yeah, I know. Every month except January saw ADR growth below the rate of inflation. And then over the last 2 years, ADR has only been at or above the rate of inflation 3 times. So again, we're still seeing, so that really means that total revenues continue to lag total operating expenses. We believe that GOP fell about 4.5% this year. We say we believe because we're still getting more data on that. But again, we did see that expenses were rising much faster than total revenue. So again, we know the margins are being impacted.
Mhm.
And then finally, just to give an idea, the rest of the world is not seeing what we're seeing. Global RevPAR was up 3% from 4.7% a year ago. If you exclude the US, global RevPAR is up 4.4%. And it's on rising demand. So we're seeing, again, big demand. Big drivers were Africa. We just look at that as the Africa because it's so big and there's a lot of developing countries there. Japan was also a big driver. Latin America and India, they all saw double RevPAR gains. But Jan, your German friends, they didn't do well in RevPAR this year. They were down this year, so they joined the US, France, and China as the only big areas seeing RevPAR declines in the full year.
Tough comp,
And then
by the way.
finally,
Tough
just
comp over 24.
what was that?
Tough comp over 24.
Oh, yes, I know. We know the reasons, but it's still down. And so, yeah, we know the reasons. So, US still has the largest supply pipeline globally, but China has the most under construction. So almost 2/3 of their pipeline is under construction, while about a fourth of the US pipeline is under construction. So you're going to still see a lot more rooms entering China. And then just a final thought, ADR globally was up 3.3%. So a big driver also for the RevPAR side. So that's kind of a wrap on, what happened in the year. Hopefully we won't be talking brighter, more fun numbers. Could you have more fun numbers? I guess you could.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, but it was a hard year, a very difficult year.
So the number that stood out to me from that was the number of 23 hotels opening in Atlanta alone over the year. That seems like a lot, maybe not. Jan, what stood out to you? Any surprises from December, how the year wrapped up?
Yeah, I think we follow this so closely. I'm not sure that there are really any
Never
surprises.
surprised.
The margins are under pressure. I think we're going to meet at the Alice Hotel Investment Conference here pretty soon, and people are not going to talk so much about the top line, but all conversations are going to be about
Absolutely.
cost control, about margins, hopefully about some outliers on the luxury side. One other bright spot that I want to mention, since I'm focusing on this a little bit more in my day job, Canadian RevPAR for the full year up 4.2%. That is on the heels of 2024 when it was up 4.4%. So rhetoric matters, words matter, and Canada is suggesting let's buy Canadian, let's stay home. So they had a very, very strong year with Canadian ADR in Canadian dollars up 3.5%.
And that really was the entirety of 2025, right? That
Yeah.
all of that conversation was starting in late 2024 and then picked up in January. And
Yeah, really after March, right? After the
Mhm.
tariff announcements and this whole
Oh,
rhetoric around
yes, and the
51st
big
state.
yeah,
Interestingly, and I think we talked about this last time, Taylor Swift made
had her
December
final.
RevPAR decline 2.5%. Her single-handedly, because she was in Vancouver for the final of the Eras Tour, which lifted occupancy and demand and RevPAR for the country. And of course, that's a tough comp. So November, December, both had Taylor Swift comps. Is that still a thing? But overall, the country did phenomenally well.
It was just crazy. It was an interesting year when you look at it graphically and then what drove it. So Jan accused me of being the biggest geek there is this morning because I showed him a chart.
In a good
And
way.
so we're
In a good way.
So what I did was I looked at the contribution of RevPAR by different cuts. So first of all, I broke out luxury and hurricane markets in Las Vegas, and then I did top 25 Northeast, top 25 Midwest, et cetera, and all other hotels. And we just looked at the contribution. So we know the RevPAR was up 28 cents, right? We said that at the beginning of the show. Well, if you look at luxury, it contributed 52 cents. But it was offset, and there's more in between. I'm just going to talk the ends, but it was offset by Las Vegas, which took away 60 cents.
Wow.
And
And so the other contributors were it's a
that in
cool
a
chart.
nutshell, that in
Yeah.
a nutshell is 2025, right?
Yeah. And so, and again, you can look at this multiple ways for for those of you that follow the data very carefully. I did it multiple ways. I actually looked at comparable units because normally when you do contribution analysis, you want to do it in comp units. And then I also did it this way, which I put everything in, but everything's bucketed, mutually exclusive. So if you're in luxury, you cannot be in hurricane markets, et cetera. So we're trying just to say really isolate what were the drivers, where was it? The Northeast and Midwest were the only other parts of the country as a whole that contributed to the RevPAR growth this year. And then everything else was that offset that growth.
I want to make a joke about Las Vegas will take your money one way or another. It will take 60
Oh, that's
cents of your
good.
dollar. I don't know.
Oh.
You know what, though? Before we move on to topics of the month, to give a little bit of a silver lining for 2026, one of your favorite topics, Isaac, I know this is one of your favorite topics that is looking very favorable for the hotel industry this year. Holiday shifts.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It seems like every major holiday is falling on a Friday or a Saturday this year.
And the biggest one is about a month away, right? A little less than a month away. Valentine's is on a Saturday on President's Weekend. I mean, could you get a better holiday for love?
We have one of our favorite banker colleagues and friend wrote about the perfect storm of the calendar shift.
Yes.
So that he was like, this is a huge contribution to RevPAR. Watch it.
It was, again, even thinking about this year, because again, I had written a piece, for those of you who read it, that came out in November that the holiday season would be soft. And in theory, it was. The 2 weeks combined was soft. But that last week, the week right after Christmas, beginning on that Sunday and going until New Year's Eve and past New Year's Eve, was much stronger than I anticipated. So I've been reviewing all my math and analysis, seeing what did I do wrong, because we do look at history, right? So I actually look back all the way to 2000, when I know where every holiday falls, but we missed that one. But this year, I don't think we're going to miss it. This year, yes, the stars are aligned. It will be any
Yes.
holiday should be a good holiday.
The stars are literally aligned. The moon,
The
the lunar
moon.
cycles
Yeah.
are aligned with the calendar dates. Oh, astrologically, let's get a tarot reader in here and show us what we can expect for 2026. All right, Jan, it is time for topics of the month, and you are going to kick us off this year. You've got, speaking of looking forward, some points you'd like to share about forecast expectations. Take it away.
Yes, you were kind enough to publish my op-ed, 5 Expectations for the Hotel Industry in 2026. So we're just going to blow through these. I'm going to ask Isaac a little bit for his take. So here are the 5. The first one is RevPAR will grow, but bifurcation holds. So we are trading, my headline for this slide is we're trading a red 0 for a black 0. So RevPAR was down minus 0.3%, and we're expecting it to go up, plus 0.5 or so. We'll see. We'll release the latest forecast at the Alice conference. But again, I think the only place to hide in the lodging industry will be luxury. We expect luxury to outperform. Number 2, World Cup visitors will drive ADR, but demand will be uneven. So we are very much expecting this to be an ADR event for the 11 cities in the United States. 10 of them are in the top 25 markets. And when we do our forecast for the month of June and July, I mean, we're seeing very healthy ADR growth numbers. But I'm just afraid that some of that demand is going to be displacing just regular group demand or regular leisure demand of people who are saying, do I really want to hang out with the Swedes or the Germans, who are all, happy to be with their teams, happy is a nice word, I guess. Let me just pick a different city or not meet in that specific city at all. So I'm very curious about that. We're all watching that very, very closely, June and July. Number 3, group demand will hold, but security around events will be tighter. So in the polarized world that we live in, I think meeting planners, meeting organizers, and hotels are going to be much more closely watching the people who are coming in and out of the conference, of the group meeting. So we think that group demand will hopefully be a little bit better. We've seen 9 consecutive months of group demand decline in 2025. Hopefully that's going to turn. It's going to be an easier comp, obviously, but I also think that GDP growth is going to support more group demand. But I think the security piece is going to come to the forefront. So those are sort of 3 topics around operations. I have 2 more on the real estate side. Isaac, where do you think that sort of lands with you?
Yeah, I think on the RevPAR side, the bifurcation, and it also ties into the World Cup. I think, yes, it will be all ADR event. It is all in the luxury side. So I do see that both for the chain scales as well as for the World Cup. Looking at history in the World Cup, that's what we saw in 1994, the last time the US had it. So a long time ago. So the world's completely changed since 94. But I do think, given the the economic conditions, the K-shaped economy, that again, it'll be a higher end traveler doing the World Cup, so and staying at these higher end hotels. So I do think that's going to drive it. And with the RevPAR, we'll be geeking out again next year. We'll do the same charts to show that everything will be bifurcated. That again, that the higher end hotels, upper tier hotels, will do much better than the lower tier, and that's what's going to drive that 0.5%. Again, we hope that, hope's not a strategy, but if things change, then we might see something different. But again, I don't see economically everything I'm looking at from Oxford Economics and all the other data we look at. It's still going to be a very bifurcated economy, which means a bifurcated hotel industry.
Mhm.
So
And on the group side, I 100% agree with you, Jan. I think safety is we were both in the room at NYU, so we know what a little tinge of fear when those protesters showed up because you don't know what was going on, and so I think that will be but yeah, higher security. People will start taking this even more seriously. Not that they didn't before, but I think that's a bigger emerging trend.
Back to group real quick. Doesn't it stand, though, that if our holidays are concentrated on the weekends, that there are more open weeks for potential
Agreed. Yes.
business transient in general,
But again, I think
group
there's a
events specifically?
I think there's still an economic play there too that may be
Oh,
holding some
sure.
things back. So, but yes, in theory, yes.
Well, there are more groups there are more open weeks. That doesn't
Yes.
mean that there are more group travelers. They may
Yeah.
just be
That are
spread
taking them. Mhm.
thinner. Yeah. My sort of positive dark horse on the World Cup conversation is that so we're based in Nashville, and Japan picked us as their base camp. France picked, I think, Wake Forest. So there are cities that don't host games that might see a positive impact. And why I'm saying this is I had the fortune to bump into the consular general for the country of Japan, who's based in Nashville, and we were
In the
talking about. I said,
Starbucks line where
yeah, yeah. So as you meet those people, so we were chatting, and he was making a bigger deal than I had thought about the press. So his point was like, man, the Japanese press is going to be all over Nashville, and so I'm like, oh, we should really think about those base camp markets that we're really not forecasting, because they don't have a game. But I think there's something there that we're going to continue to look at. But I just thought it was sort of an interesting little side note, that the press from the countries, they're traveling with the team, but they're going to stay where the team is based. So that's going to
is
be super interesting.
based. Journalists don't get to stay in super expensive hotel rooms.
I don't know. Maybe the
We
Japanese
make up
will.
for ADR with occupancy.
So wrapping up my expectations paper real quick. So number 4, pipeline will be muted, but renovations will pick up. I think this is going to be the story of 2026. I think owners will realize that they don't have a lot of new competition coming because the pipeline is very, very low, 136,000 rooms in construction and continues to drop. And they're going to realize that they can have a real competitive advantage if they're going to be the quote unquote new kid on the block by renovating. And so I think that's going to be a really, really big push. And then lastly, deal volume will increase, but distress remains elusive. We've joked with our favorite broker friends, every January at Alice, they're saying, yep, this is the year. We can feel it. This is the year when transaction volume increases. I want them to be right. We want them to be right. This could be the year that they are indeed correct, because the bid-ask spread, from what I'm hearing, is really coming together, and interest rates are lower, and all of this could then portend for better deals. The distress piece we've been talking about since 2021. I just don't really see it. And I think that there's going to be maybe note sales, but not outright, distress sales. So we'll see where we end up when we meet at the NYU Hotel Investment Conference in June. So
So
those are
far, I
my
don't.
quick five. Operationally, sort of more of the same. Pipeline, again, not a whole lot there, but so it's going to be reservations and deals hopefully up.
So I agreed with everything on your top five except your renovation piece. I can't square if margins are really being squeezed and interest rates are still high. Yes, they've come down, but it's not like it's free money like it was. How do we think owners are going to finance and put those renovations in place when they're being squeezed in
Yeah.
so many directions?
But customers are beating up on the brand saying, wow, the room that I'm paying more for is now just 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years older, and the prices go up, but the room is not getting any nicer. You need to renovate the room. They tell the brands, not understanding that the brands only have property improvement plans and have to transfer that over to the owner, and the owner then has to put the money down and actually do the renovation. So I think customer satisfaction scores matter in this conversation, and I think owners are going to get pushed, if that's the word you want to use, by the brands to say, okay, you really, really, really have to do something.
But you can only squeeze so much out of the ownership group. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be any higher. I think we are seeing renovations now. It's not like there are no renovations going on. I just don't think it's going to be meaningfully different than what we've seen the last 2 years. So again, I'm not saying that again it won't happen. I just don't see that increase in the renovation.
Well, let's talk
Side.
to our contacts at, Alice, and then throughout the first and
That's
second
what I
quarter
plan
and
to
see
do.
And
Yeah.
do
where
those
we're at.
owners just try and kick the renovation down the road again, or do they say, oh, maybe we convert to another brand?
So
Now,
that's
that's the interesting question.
and that I think could be a trend to watch. Exactly. Because I think it is very interesting again, because I just don't see the owners I talk to are just, they're under pressure and they just say it just, so I don't know. Yeah, you can be asked to renovate, but
You can be asked to do a lot of
right.
things.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about that. And Isaac, I know that you are going to dive a little bit deeper into conversions in this episode. So
Yeah.
start us off.
Yeah, again, we're going to look at supply overall and what drove it. So first of all, just recall, supply inched up to 0.7%. So on the new opening side, we had, and we're going to do this all in hotels. I know a lot of folks like to do it on a rooms basis, but I think of a deal as a deal. It's a hotel. And so hotels have rooms, but it's a hotel deal, right? So when you sign a deal, it's on a hotel. And so in terms of new openings, we saw about the same as a year ago, 745 hotels open this year. Remember,
23 of which were in Atlanta.
Atlanta,
Right?
exactly. I'm gonna say that
I can't
exactly.
get over that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
what's
love that number.
interesting is that's a small amount. That's similar to where we were in 2014 and 2015. For perspective, the long-term average is 945 new hotels. And in 2019 alone, we opened 1,192 hotels in that year. So again,
Wow.
it's a different, the smaller amount again, because of all the reasons we all know, higher interest rates, higher building costs, et cetera, et cetera. And again, we know that only about a quarter of the pipeline right now is under construction. So I wouldn't expect that number to change next year when we there next year. In terms of what it was, 29% of all new openings were in upper mid-scale, with upscale following at 19%. What I thought was interesting this year is that lower tier, that would be mid-scale and economy, accounted for 29% of all new openings as well. And new openings are truly new openings, not conversions yet. These are just openings
Oh.
versus 19% in 2019. And the middle tier, which was upscale and upper mid-scale, was 48% of all openings this year, but in 2019 there were 61% in 2019, right? So again, you're seeing that shift. We've heard of all these brands that are targeting the lower tier, and you're seeing that happen, that they're taking a greater share of openings in 25 than they did in prior years. I thought that was the most interesting thing to me in the new opening side. In terms of conversions, and you might have hit the nail on the head, Steph, regarding people saying, I'm not going to renovate, I'm just going to get a new brand. Conversions finally hit the long-term average. We saw about 1,872 hotels change hands in 2025 versus 1,630 a year ago. And so this is a little bit above the long-term average, 20-year long-term average. What's interesting here is 36% or 668 hotels were independent hotels that went to a brand.
Yep.
And
There
that
it
is the most
is.
since 2019. So in 2019 was 632.
Sorry, Isaac. You mentioned they were changing hands. You mean they were changing flags, right? You're not
Flags.
talking about
We're not talking ownership, right?
Yeah,
We're talking
about assets.
affiliation. Everything I'm
Yes,
talking
of
about
course.
is true brand changes.
Yeah.
And the way we look at brand changes, you can go from independent to brand to brand. You can go from the same parent to a new brand within the parent, or you can go from brand to independent. So, I mean, we look at it, those 4 categories. So we try to break it out to make sure we understand it completely. And going back, this is only the 3rd time, or actually, this is the 4th time that we've seen 600 or more independent hotels go to a brand. It happened in 2007, 2008, and 2014.
Can you break those down by class?
I can. I didn't break it down
Okay.
for this. I can. Yeah, we have
Wait,
all the
you're
data.
not
Yeah,
my data bot on demand?
I know. Yeah, I have it, but then well, thank you,
My
Steph.
my guess is that they are higher end
Yeah, yeah,
independents going into soft brands.
yeah. So we have it all.
John,
We
you're
can.
saying no, maybe not?
My sense of the US hotel industry was always that there's this fine line between economy and independent, and this
Yes.
sort of teeter-totter, that properties go in and out of between
Mhm.
economy and independent as brands push owners to say, hey, you need to renovate. Owners are like, no, I'm not. They lose the flag, and then maybe there's a new owner that says, oh, I'm going to put a little bit more money into it, and yes, I need this franchise engine, the loyalty program engine. So that's
Yes.
so I would have said it's more on the lower end.
More
It was
on
also
that strategy, that why behind converting
Mhm.
independent into brand versus the upper end joining. Because I just see I don't know, more soft collections launching.
And I think
I'll check it because
But they're going
have the.
global.
Yeah.
They're looking for hotels, not necessarily here.
And this is all US data. What I thought was really interesting as well, because Jan was going, no, you should look at rooms. And I say, no, I think about deals, what I was used to, and we have to look at the number of hotels. But when I looked at the number of rooms that went brand independent, it actually was down from a year ago. That kind of tells me that, again, just basic math, that the average size of hotel is smaller.
Smaller.
So, Steph, it may be going to a higher end. That's what I have to check. Is just knowing that little piece of information, going, these are smaller hotels that could definitely be renovated and upscaled to
I
go
just
into.
want to know if I'm right
I know.
over Jan.
Oh, I
Well,
want you to be right. I just
I
don't
would
think you
say
are.
I think you may have something there, but I will definitely look at it and let you know before.
There may be a
before the end.
there, as Jan would
Yeah.
say.
Then about 28% of hotels that converted, 522 went from brand to independent. That's up from 466 a year ago, but still well below the 700 plus that changed hands in 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2014.
Wow.
So going back to your CapEx question, we're not seeing back in those days. I mean, the brands were really pushing renovations. So then you were seeing people say, I'm out, I'm going to do something different. You're not seeing that right now, right? You're not seeing that back to I can do this on my own.
Right.
You're seeing
Yeah.
most staying where they're at. In terms of the brand to brand, about 27% of the conversions went brand to brand. So it went from one brand to another brand. And when I do brand to brand, they had to go to a different parent. So this is not in the same parent
Okay.
company.
Okay.
And so most changes, I put this note down. Stephanie Ricca, congratulations, you are right. The last note I put on my page here was most brand changes were the higher chain scale, the most since 2000. That was my last note. So there you are. I didn't even.
Jan's about to say, however,
Your
Yeah.
Honor, if I may,
I will see the point.
that could also mean economy to mid-scale.
Yeah,
Like higher here does not mean
but it
that.
is. But she didn't. She just said going to higher brands. It's kind of
Fair.
that. I'm just saying.
Hey,
She
I
didn't-
take my wins where I can get them with you
Yeah.
two.
But yeah, so there you go. But that's a quick. I mean, there's a lot more here. We can look at by class. We can obviously there's all the data on it, and it goes all the way back to 1987. So we are looking at long-term trends and seeing how different that activity is. And
Sure,
shout out to
especially
Amanda.
since there's so many more brands now.
And then shout out to Amanda Hike, 'cause she told us that a few weeks ago, and I said, "Well, we hadn't looked at the fourth quarter, we were just looking at the third quarter." And so at the third quarter, we were still well below the 20-year average. Not well below, but below a 20-year average, and now we're above it. So, yeah, that last fourth quarter push changed the picture, but she was on top of it.
And this topic is super timely. When I talk to my equity analyst friends from Wall Street who are following the C Corps, Hilton, Hyde, Marriott, and the others, there's this term NUG, right? Net unit growth. And everybody talks about net unit growth. And they're saying, hey, how can you square that all these companies are looking forward and saying, oh, we have this great net unit growth, and your pipeline is decelerating? And the answer is, of course, what Isaac just told us. This is all about this is the conversion game. So we will lean into these slides, into these data points a little bit more going forward.
Well, one last thing, thinking of pipeline, a year ago, the pipeline was the largest it's ever been. So we've been at record pipelines. The difference is that very few under construction, about a quarter. So it's fallen a little bit in 25, but not like meaningfully. It's not like that much different from 24. It's no longer a record. But again, you're just not seeing that construction push. Which speaks to the interest rate environment, the construction, everything we talked about, which goes back to my point. That's why I don't see the CapEx thing being as big or the renovations as big this year as last year, because I think the same factors are at play.
Isn't it fun in January to just have lofty, cautious optimism about so many topics and just wonder where they might go? And that brings us to the close of our episode, the first episode of 2026. Hopefully many, many more to come. That was a great conversation, gave us a lot of food to talk about. Food for thought, food to talk about. We'll always talk about food or data, any of it, all of it. But in this case, we're going to bring it back to our metaphor. When the calendar switched and we came into a new year, guys, I thought, well, maybe we should switch up what we do here at the end of every episode. Maybe we should change things around. And don't worry, I'm not going to change them on you without warning you. But I decided for this element, no, I think it's fun. I love it. You both love it more than anything else in the world, I can tell. And I'm pretty sure our listeners tolerate it because we can see that they're pretty much getting to the end of every episode. And hey, if they don't like it, at least they know when they can start to tune out. But hey, we're not going to change things now because if it's not broken, don't fix it. Jan, how does the hotel industry feel to you right now, and compare it to something fun?
Fun, I don't know. I'm sitting in Nashville, Tennessee, and we are on a severe winter wonder watch, and there's going to be ice and sleet and closed highways. And so my metaphor is basically that for the hotel industry. The beginning of the year is going to be frozen, and then it's going to be pretty slushy, and it's going to be very slow. But then hopefully in Q3 and Q4, especially with the World Cup, the sun will come out and it will unfreeze. If that's the word. So
hey,
that's
let it go, man.
Frozen.
Let it go.
I love it.
So, Isaac.
Oh, God, now you completely threw me off because I had what I was going to say, but I'm still going to go with what I was thinking about. I just feel like a zombie. And that's the song that I'm going by. It's a song by Youngblood called Zombie. This is going to be another zombie year. We're just going to be walking aimlessly, trying to figure things out. I just don't think anything's really going to change in our forecast, which, again, I lead the team that does the forecast, kind of shows it's the same. Yes, it's black, as you said, it's positive versus red, negative, but it really is not going to feel that much different. I just don't see it. Again, I think hopefully there is an unfreezing of the markets themselves and the economy, and maybe that will change things. But again, it's a zombie year, so look up Youngblood. Album's great, and you might like that really song.
I don't know if zombies are affected by ice and slush and snow. I don't think so. In any of the zombie movies I've seen, they pretty much get through anything, right?
Yeah,
so maybe there's a case to be made for the persistence and resilience
Okay.
of a state of zombiehood. I don't even know why I'm twisting this around.
Wow.
Listeners, thank you for sticking with us for another episode. And I would like to let you all know that we will be publishing a special bonus episode of Tell Me More from the America's Lodging Investment Summit, which takes place at the end last week in January. So stay tuned to your feed to listen to that. Hope you all have a great month. Find us wherever you like to listen, including now on YouTube. Find all the news about the global hotel industry at costar.com/hotel news. Thanks, guys, and see you soon.
Let it go.
I'm Terence Baker, News Editor, Europe, Middle East and Africa, and I'm the host of The Upgrade, a CoStar News Hotels podcast for the EMEA region. In it, I discuss with special guests the pressures, challenges, joys and exhilaration that comes with managing, owning and developing hotels in our glorious multifaceted industry. Discovering the EMEA region from the scenic northern shores of Norway to the heights of Table Mountain in South Africa, and most likely some chat about birdwatching, distance running and the English Premiership. Join us wherever you find your podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify and on other platforms.
This episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast, was recorded on January 21, 2026. The episode was edited by Sean McCracken. Find all hotel industry news at costar.com/hotel news. Thanks for listening.